Hurricane season isn't over just yet, and before you go, we're going to help you get ready for your Thanksgiving plans. You might need to rethink your wardrobe as things are getting really hot in the center of the country. And boy, oh boy, do we have a mess crawling up the East Coast. Will this thing come ashore, or will our front bring it out to sea? And breaking news this morning, the 5th National Climate Report is out. How often disasters are hitting the U.S. and greenhouse gases reaching their worst levels in 800,000 years, plus where the U.S. is improving. This is America's Morning Headquarters. I'm meteorologist Stephanie Abrams, alongside meteorologist Jordan Steele and Jim Cantori. And Jim, that climate report in less than 10 minutes. But first, the Gulf Coast. We're a little bit rainy still today.
Oh, we are.
Because it is on, and it's going to stay on for a while. I mean, City, Omaha. Look at Oklahoma City, by the way. It's 39 than it is in Minneapolis, which is pretty wild. In fact, Dallas and Minneapolis this morning are the exact same temperature. And it's November. They should be much different with they're talking about our temperatures. Our Arctic air is much farther north on the other side of the world. It's not dipping down here into the lower 48. So we see more of that warmth. Look at the 70s. It is cooler in Dallas than it is in Omaha. It's just mind-blowing here to see this 70-degree heat that continues into tomorrow as well. And notice that it gets more intense through the center of the country. So for our Wednesday, look at Thursday, 185 million above average, even into our Friday. And by the way, we're a week away from Thanksgiving, and we're talking about all this heat. Will we be able to hang on to it until next week? We'll talk about that later. But here are your highs: 60s, 70s, 66 in Chicago. We should be in like the low 50s this time of year. And we even see the warmth stretching into the Northeast. D.C. is going to be at 70, just absolutely beautiful for us. Omaha, Nebraska, our average high is 51. We're 20 degrees above that today. And Jim, notice red for the extended forecast. Even when we cool off, we're still just slightly above average.
Yeah, about like 11.
Some more rains to come in and see it fill up again. So let's talk about Hillary making landfall. It was just a huge storm. Brought tremendous rainfall and flooding to the interior portions of California. It was a tropical storm, winds at 65 miles an hour. You can see the expanse of the cloud shield that was associated with this. And it wasn't only Hillary, but it was mainly the rain and the snow from all those atmospheric rivers that essentially wiped our drought out here into California. But the question is, are we going to see another year like that, or are things going to tick back up? With El Nino, we might see some heavy rain into Southern California. We will see. Now, when it comes to the reservoirs, they've done really, really well. I mean, 60% for a lot of our reservoirs here, which is huge. Even 40% for some of these reservoirs is actually a big deal in the West because things can be so dry sometimes. Massive storm system. You can see some energy there. We got some energy also here. This is all going to be shifting east and bringing us the chance for rain, especially along the coast for us. This disturbance moves in, and we actually see a couple waves of energy that come on in, bringing in the showers and even some mountain snow as well. Notice 1 to 2 inches here, especially those coastal areas, and then there's the Sierra getting some snow for us. I don't know if we actually want a repeat of last year. It was so intense, believe it or not. But if you're thinking about doing any skiing over the holidays, there are going to be spots that I'm sure will be open. There's your clouds and your showers just starting to come into San Francisco, basically Northern California is where the rain will be through the day today. But there's your big wave of energy coming in tomorrow that will bring us some showers. You'll still hang on to those clouds here and some rain, but this really is the rainy season for us into California, especially into Southern California. Once we get into this November time frame is when we do have a better chance of seeing the showers coming in. So Los Angeles, we get the sunshine on Thursday. Otherwise, there's a lot of rain, but our temperatures stay right around 70. Jim.
All right,
You can see the trough right here. Come on, technology. There you go. So this whole big piece of energy is going to be swinging through the south, and then it rides up the East Coast. And then Jordan mentioned something from the tropics that's going to come up as well. Thankfully, by, Saturday afternoon, we're going to be looking okay here along the southeast coast at least. So here is our low pressure. That's giving us moisture, which we need. We do have exceptional drought through a huge chunk of the state of Louisiana. Over 70% of the state is an exceptional drought. And Mississippi, you're right behind that too, with the very dry conditions. And majority of the rain will come into Florida. We could use some here, but again, we really are desperate for it into Louisiana and also into Mississippi. The state of Florida will see it too. So you've got that moisture that's streaming on in, and all this energy is going to keep making its way eastbound through the day. Obviously, the closer to the coast you are, the better off you are with this low pressure and the amount of rain that you're going to get. There's the winds coming in counterclockwise around our low. And so this is all going to be tossing everything northbound with that counterclockwise spin. Some, breezy conditions too, but pretty just wet, cloudy, cool. Look at our temperatures this morning into the 50s with rain. That is uncomfortable. Otherwise, we'll see some clouds, or I should say a lot of us will see clouds as we go through the day. But watch everything kind of rumble eastbound, and it will pick up in intensity and go a little bit farther north as we head through our Wednesday. Florida, it's going to come into you Wednesday evening into overnight and Thursday morning. So there is that possibility of some flooding into South Florida Wednesday into Thursday, and then all the way up even into St. Augustine as we head into our Friday. So this whole system, what happens with it is that we'll see a new low develop, and then that is going to be riding up the coast for us. It could be pretty intense too. So as we head into our Friday, you can see it starts to, get up into the mid-Atlantic. By Saturday, we're going to clear on out here for us, and we will see those sunny skies return. But the wind could be a little bit gusty at times, especially where you have less friction, like, in open areas, 20, 30, 35-mile-an-hour winds. You certainly can't rule that out. And Jim, those are slow to get out of here. The winds are always, I feel like, a little slower to get out.
Well, yeah, because these big highs, right? Now, has anyone done a deep dive into what's going on in Tampa, Sarasota, Bradenton? Why, in other words, why they've been so dry and the rest of the state's fine?
I mean, the only thing I can imagine is like an east wind, bringing more rain to the.
We have been dominated by that.
That would be my guess off the top of my head.
Tuesday, Wednesday, that's as good as any right now.
Really? Of all places?
I know. I don't control it. I'm working up to your level on that.
All right. Let's get you out the door in the southeast. And I don't know about swimming in those canals either. I grew up in Florida. I was like, a lot of stuff.
Oh,
a lot of stuff. Sharks?
Ooh. Oh, yeah.
Manatees. Imagine pulling up
yes, when we come back and clean the fish.
I have never seen a shark in a canal.
Come back and clean the fish.
Go underwater.
They're part of the ones that are eating the fish. I'm telling you right now, when you throw the scraps over after you clean the fish.
In the canals, a shark? I've never once. Deep Water Week continues tonight at 8/7 Central. Join the search party with Brandon Jordan right here on the Weather Channel.
We'll have to ask Brandon next time he's here. If we get Brandon here.
The South is on tap for a soggy stretch. Gulf moisture fueling rounds of rain across the southern states. Plus, we have a little area in the Caribbean that we're going to watch. And hurricane season not over just yet. It goes till November 30th. And we're going to get you ready for your Thanksgiving plans. You might need to rethink your wardrobe here. Look at that, 10 to 20 degrees above average. And we could have quite a storm potentially impacting the Northeast. We're going to have more on that coming up in just a minute. But first, breaking news this morning. The 5th National Climate Report is out. How often disasters are hitting U.S. neighborhoods as greenhouse gases reach their worst levels in 800,000 years. Plus, where the U.S. is actually improving. We're going to have that and much more ahead on America's Morning Headquarters. I'm meteorologist Stephanie Abrams, alongside meteorologist Jordan Steele and Jim Cantori. Jim will have that report in less than 10 minutes. But first, we got to get everyone out the door. And if you're in the southeast, cloudy and wet for a lot of you.
Yeah, so what do we tell?
Weekend, I was like,
oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Can you change them though?
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of.
I know you can do. I know.
Or if you go to the store and you ask one of those stores, and you're like, oh, can you just do it for me real quick? They'll pop them off and do it for you too.
Mary, what was it?
Because it's not just in Florida. We are actually seeing it with a nice southerly flow all the way up. Minneapolis this morning is at 53 degrees, essentially where our high should be this time of year. We're already at, and the Arctic air is very limited as to the north. It's actually in other parts of the world right now. Savoy, France, seeing incredible snowfall. We've seen in other places too. But today we're going to be 10, even 20 degrees above average. Notice the 70s from Denver to Dodge City, Omaha to Oklahoma. We've got them, and it actually gets even hotter as we head into tomorrow. We're going to jump up just a tad there into the low 70s. Dallas is 73. Atlanta's 53. I mean, we are just getting wedged in with some of that cooler air here into the A. Tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, the above average temperatures will be expansive. A lot of us will be feeling a lot warmer than we should be this time of year. We warm on Thursday over into Raleigh, D.C. into the 60s, but it gets even hotter into the Northeast as we head towards the end of the week. We are right around 70 degrees in Washington, D.C. Just absolutely beautiful, right? But we're going to have to watch for a system crawling up the East Coast, which Jim's going to talk about in just a minute. Let's stick to the temperatures. Omaha, Nebraska, yes, we cool off, but we're still a little bit above average, and we pop right back up. So it's not a huge cool off for us just yet. D.C., we're stair-stepping it up. We are going to be 10 degrees above average as we head into our Friday. I say enjoy it because soon these numbers are going to flip around, and it's not going to be 51, it'll be 15. It's not going to be 65, it's going to be 56 in Boston. So enjoy these milder air mass. Because, Jim, everything just, you know, all the cold air is over here on this side of the world, and then it'll eventually jump to our side.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. But
front lines, we're going to start you off on this Tuesday morning in Iceland. Typically, the city sees 4 to 5 by mid-November. So if you're wondering where all the cold and snow is, Jim, it's banked up north of here.
It is. I was wondering where Mike Seaman
was Hurricane Hillary. Northern Baja California Peninsula came in, tropical storm, winds at 65 miles an hour. Did some devastating flooding here into like the Coachella Valley. If you remember that, they really got a lot of flooding. And all of those atmospheric rivers that we saw, it wasn't just hurricane that brought us so wet. We saw a lot of atmospheric rivers last winter that wiped out the drought for us. And we're still doing quite well, and we still have water in some of these reservoirs. Look at that, 80%, especially in Southern California, 80%, which is huge because some of these can be, it feels like just, you know, a tiny little bathtub and not much filling it. But we've got more coming our way. We have this huge trough that's going to be swinging in, and that's going to bring us rain. In Southern California, this is the rainy season. November is when we get into it, and it goes through really around March-ish is when we have the most rain. But look at this big disturbance and all the little pieces of energy that are going to come in waves, and it will bring rain to Northern California, even down into Southern California for us. And I'm not saying that this is kind of kicking everything off and it's just flip the switch and this is what we're going to see for the next few months. But this is a good start. Snow into the mountains. I know a lot of people try to go skiing this time of year, but there you go. Nice solid snowfall, Mammoth, for you. Otherwise, rain streaming into the Bay Area, into Northern California. It does all eventually wind in and get down into Southern California for our Wednesdays when we'll see our wettest day. Snow into the mountains as well. We get a little bit of a break, and then we get a little bit more with it coming in here for our Friday and into our Saturday. Speaking of the weekend, let's have a look at the week. Jordan mentioned, I'm going to first tackle the one that's helping us bring rain to the southeast, and we'll eventually ride up the East Coast, giving us a lot of waves. And the question is, does it come in as it goes into the Northeast? We'll talk about that in a minute, because first, this disturbance is giving us unsettled weather here along the Gulf Coast and through the southeast. So there's your low pressure. We've got moisture that's coming on in, and we need it. And we're getting it in places we need it, like the Panhandle of Florida. We could use a lot more here into Louisiana and Mississippi, but unfortunately, this is not going to wipe out that drought. It already passed through Texas, Louisiana. We got plenty of rain out of it. We could use more, but there it is, heavier showers into not only the Panhandle, but southeast Florida, which really, truly, it's just called South Florida. No one calls it Southeast Florida. It's like South Florida means this area of the state. And then Southwest Florida is over here. So anyway, South Florida, 3 to 5 inches of rain. You're talking from kind of Palm Beach County down towards Miami-Dade. We've got a plume of moisture that's streaming in. That red's more dry air. But you can see that we do have a lot of moisture really kind of over the Gulf, unfortunately. And that's where the heavier showers are located. It's too bad we can't just take this and put it right there, right? Beam me up, Scotty. Come a little bit farther north in order to get those clouds and showers. Clouds, those are stretching much farther north as well. The rain will too, but this morning is more of an I-10 thing. So no issues from Jackson to Starkville to Atlanta, though I know in places like Jackson, you are wishing for some issues when it comes to the rain because we are so stinking dry and you could really, really use it. So watch everything kind of swing east. That means more showers in Florida, more rain here into Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. It goes through our Wednesday, and even as as we head into our Thursday, still it'll be raining out. So we'll get a nice dousing for some of us, but we're going to need a lot more. There's also the potential for flooding into South Florida and also as you go Palm Beach north to St. Augustine. So what's going to happen as we head later in the week? Another low pressure will develop, and then we're going to see this thing kind of march up the coast. And we have another boundary coming in. That's a whole other story. I need to stick to this story. This is what it looks like for our Thursday. You get ahead of yourself. See how it's starting to go up the coast here, and we clear out from Little Rock to Louisiana. And as we look at the winds here, 20, 30 mile an hour winds for us with this system.
That's what makes it hard. That's a strong wind, even with 60s and 50s.
It is,
right?
Especially along the coast there.
You got anything else?
No.
All right.
I'm not supposed to. National Climate Assessment, NCA, was released. It's basically a giant report card, literally. It's like 1,600 pages on how the country is navigating our climate change.
Yeah, it's issued roughly every 4 years, and it helps explain how climate change is affecting us, impacting us. So joining us this morning is Dr. Rachel Cletus, Policy Director for the Union of Concerned Scientists. Dr. Cletus, thank you so much for being with us. Now, if we were to look at this as a report card, Steph and I were just trying to figure out what grade would we give the United States. Any thoughts on that?
Unfortunately, it's a massive report. So is there, one headline that would you say is the most disturbing out of this whole report, or can you narrow it down to maybe a few of them?
Yes, this is.
We talk about these, billion-dollar disasters. We've already in the United States recorded $25 billion disasters here in 2023. Does this assessment, speak to this and the financial side of it too?
Yes, it does.
Just the average person. When I'm going to the grocery store, for, the person dropping their kid off at school, for, the person who's just heading to work, what does it mean for just us?
Well, here's the good.
How big this report is, but if you were to kind of look at a couple of key impacts or key things that, are in it, what would you say is either surprising to you or maybe, more optimistic about the report for you?
Well,
thank you so much for being with us with the Union of Concerned Scientists. We appreciate your time. We're, of course, following the report today, the new report throughout the day here on the Weather Channel. Make sure you guys join us on Pattern at noon right here on this channel.
Yes, we literally have an entire team. You're going to see the most people you've ever seen on Pattern today. Yeah. They're going to break it down section by section so it's easy to digest. Well, the weather in South Florida, you don't know what's chomping at you, right? Deepwater Week continues tonight at 8/7 Central. Join the search party with Brandon Jordan right here on the Weather Channel. Jordan, I don't know. That's a little too murky for me. I would be freaked, stressed out down there.
There's a lot of the times when I'll be like...
Well, the South is on tap for a soggy stretch here. Gulf moisture fueling rounds of rain across the southern states. Plus, we have a little area in the Caribbean to watch. Could be our next named system. That's right, hurricane season isn't over yet. And I'll tell you what, we're going to get you ready for your Thanksgiving. If you're getting an early start on things, it's going to be a little bit on the warm side. And you might be dealing with a mess this weekend in the Northeast. We're going to talk about all of these and how they will be impacting your travel plans. But first, we have breaking news this morning. The 5th National Climate Report is out. How often disasters are hitting the U.S. and greenhouse gases reaching their worst level in 800,000 years. It's hard to even fathom that. Plus, where the U.S. is improving. It's all this morning on America's Morning Headquarters. I'm meteorologist Stephanie Abrams alongside meteorologist Jordan Seal and Jim Cantori. Jim will have that climate report in less than 10 minutes. But first, the Gulf Coast not off to a great start.
No.
All out of her system. Yeah. Before all the travel that's going to happen within the next couple weeks and really the next couple months with everything that's going on. We do have some cooler temperatures for places like Louisville, Pittsburgh. There's some spots, Chicago in the 30s. But it is warm. Minneapolis is warmer than Atlanta this morning, which is pretty shocking, and it's closer to where our high should be in Minneapolis this time of year. We do have limited Arctic air. It is happening in Alaska, where they're getting record snowfall, and we are seeing cold air in other parts of the world. But we are feeling the warmth. There's your 70s right into the center of the country. Lower 70s continue as we head into tomorrow. And notice they're going to spread out like peanut butter and jelly. And we still have that wedge of cold air getting into the south. That high pressure kind of pushing everything down into Atlanta. Will only be 53 degrees for a high. So we'll feel the chill. But notice 119 million Americans above average, 185 million above average by Thursday. And it just spreads to the coastal areas on our Friday. So As we go into our Thursday, Minneapolis is still well above average, same as Chicago. Look at D.C. in the mid-60s. Boston, we're at 60 as well. And then we will see 70 degrees all the way up to the mid-Atlantic if you're headed to the nation's capital to do some touring around. Notice it is red as far as the eye can see here in a lot of places, including Omaha, Nebraska, where 51 is our average high. Jim, even our cool-off takes us to, okay, about average, but still, we jump right back up after that.
So, Abrams, you got me curious. Are you a PB&J girl?
I am, but I don't like grape jelly. I like strawberry, raspberry, those types of jellies, and I do like crunchy peanut butter.
Nice.
Butter, of course. But I also make my own peanut butter, too, you know.
Yes, that's right. You do. You do. Pretty
Iceland, of course, where there's been a lot of anxiety in southwest Iceland, where volcanic eruption appears likely. Hundreds of earthquakes triggered by the volcano have cracked roads and highways in the town of Grindavik. The entire population of 4,000 have been evacuated as magma pulses underneath the town and threatens to break through to the surface. You can see all of the earthquakes that have happened. First of all, it's all volcanoes around the island. It's pretty, but look at Grindavik in the southwest corner. You see it'll light up in red there. That's where you've had all of the earthquakes and, of course, where they're expecting the eruption. Severe thunderstorms dropped golf ball-sized hail in South Africa. The deluge in the southern suburbs of Johannesburg lasted only a few minutes, but left huge amounts of damage to cars and rooftops. The same thunderstorm may also have spun up a quick tornado. Well, isn't that interesting? And in Alaska, I was just talking about how cold it is there. The snow season is going bonkers. In Anchorage, another 8.7 inches fell Monday, yet another new daily record. So far this month, Anchorage has gotten blasted by almost 38 inches. Typically, the city sees 4 to 5 by mid-November, and we've had 38. It's pretty impressive, Jim. 6-7 times what we usually see.
Yeah, well, somebody.
California with Hillary coming in as a tropical storm, winds at 65 miles an hour in the northern Baja Peninsula. Clouds at Coachella Valley, I remember, got swamped by some of the rain. And we had not only Hillary, but if you go back to winter, we had all those atmospheric rivers that wiped out the drought. We are at 0 here right now. Will we be able to hold on to that? It's something we're going to not be able to tell you exactly right now if those rivers will set up, but we are going into the rainy season, so that is a positive. Numerous reservoirs still doing great, 80% capacity for a lot of them, 60% capacity for some as well. Big trough, huge energy that's going to be coming in. That means we will see rain and snow for us really through the entire state of California, and we get a couple rounds of it, so you're not one and done with this. The rain will be coming in, especially as we head into our Friday, Saturday. We'll have a better chance for some of those showers, but 1 to 2 inches for us here. And then the interior, for those of you who are hoping for the snow, that are doing any skiing over Thanksgiving, we got a little snow coming here into Mammoth. Rain right now, you can see the showers and you see this huge trough just offshore. It's just got to rotate around in order to bring us all of this rainy weather for us. By the way, the rainy season, the wet season in Southern California is from now through kind of March, April-ish. All right, coming up next, speaking of rain, we got a lot of them because this is the one that's going to sweep around right at the East Coast. Will it or won't it get caught up in a front and keep it just offshore, or will we be fully impacted by this system? We're going to have a look at that in just a minute. First, what is it doing today? Well, we have low pressure, we have boundaries. That's going to give us rain and clouds. Now, it's already kind of gone through Texas, Louisiana. Now it's the I-10 corridor like Alabama and also into Florida, too. That's where we will see the heaviest rain. Mississippi will get a little bit left over, but overall, it's going to be South Florida. It is going to be up here into the Panhandle as well. Peninsula, Panhandle, and you've got a lot of moisture. That's what this green indicates in the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere. But in fact, it goes all the way down to the surface. Just for fun, that orange, that's going to indicate dry air for you. And so you see Texas, no rain for us, but we do have it. A lot of it just offshore, right along the coastal areas here of Louisiana. Cloud cover into New Orleans, maybe a few raindrops there as well. There's your low pressure, winds coming in, rotating counterclockwise around that. And that is just going to continue to toss the rain up into the south. So sunshine, though, Atlanta, Starkville, Montgomery. Don't forget, we have big high pressure to the north. That's one of the reasons we're getting those cooler temperatures. And it's also keeping everything at bay here right along I-10, Pensacola, Mobile, points in between, Tyndall Air Force Base. A lot of these areas are going to get a lot more wet before they dry out, because this low is just rotating around and making its way eventually into Florida. But I say, Mother Nature, get all your bad weather out of the way this week, so next week we don't run into too many problems when we are dealing with everyone traveling for Thanksgiving. So flooding potential into South Florida Thursday into Friday, stretches up the Space Coast here all the way up to the first coast of St. Augustine. Then our low pressure will develop, and that's going to race up the coast. Again, more on that in just a minute, as we still have to deal with this for our Thursday, and then Friday you'll see it starts to move its way northbound. Jim, temperatures are going to rebound too nicely here into the 70s.
Yeah, it's really one day after the cold front, and then we're right back up above average again for everybody east of the Rockies. It goes, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, but in this case, a journey of 1,000,000 miles took 30 years.
That it did. Joining us this morning is Chris Gunn, science and technology photographer at NASA, who documented some of the 100+ million hours of work that went into the creation of the James Webb Telescope. Thank you so much for joining us. You joined this project 15 years ago. What would you say was the most challenging part about photographing this engineering marvel? You wear when you go in there and having to shoot while you have that outfit on.
He says that's the fun part. Yeah. That's the good times. In your years of extensive coverage here, how did you pick the best photos for your book? And I have to tell you, by looking at these pictures we just showed, all I could think about was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the Oompa Loompas.
Oh, the outfits.
Right? I mean, a little bit from the time that you spent with just the team.
Are you into space? Are you usually doing nature? Are you into this kind of stuff, or do you like other things?
I've always loved science.
Incredible, I mean, Chris. Spectacular. You can see.
Thank you.
The clarity is just...
You know who everybody gravitates to at the parties? Chris.
100%.
They want to find out all about your job.
What's grabbing at you? Now I need to know if you found the bracelet, though. Deep Water Week continues tonight at 8, 7 Central. Join the search party with Brandon Jordan right here on the Weather Channel. At least we know he didn't come up empty-handed, Jordan.
You know what? He's got such good spirits, too, because